My name is Blanca Campomanes from CETIC Technology Center, and I'm going to present the work titled The New Spanish Political Scenario, Twitter Graph and Opinion Analysis with an Interactive Visualization. First of all, we are going to see the introduction of our proposal and our main motivation. Then I'm going to explain the methods, the application development, that is our use case, and finally what are the conclusions and main lessons we have learned. As all of us know, Twitter is used to express user opinion about many topics, particularly politics have arisen as a main issue in Twitter in the last years, obtaining valuable conclusions. On the other hand, regarding the Spanish political scenario, we want to explain that since 1999, Spain was a two-party system. The socialist PCOE and the right-wing party PP was the main parties. Both received the 83% of the total votes. But in 2015, two new parties appeared in the scenario, and 4 years later, other two. That supposed the 40% of the total votes. Furthermore, regionalist parties have strengthened their presence in their areas in Spain with a total of 10% of votes. With this variety of political parties, our aim is to understand the new political scenario in Spain. That is how the new parties and the followers are organized and what is the new structure after being a two-party system during almost 30 years. We want to use graph analysis and data visualization, and our aim is to analyze how the parties are connected between them in Twitter, to assess the closeness between certain parties, and to better understand and visualize relationship between user and political Twitter accounts. To do this, we have developed an interactive network by extracting and processing data from Twitter of political interaction, and from this data creating a graph and extracting clusters from it, and finally producing a 2D graph visualization with some statistic analysis in a web-based interactive platform. So this is a diagram of our proposed methodology. First of all, we use the official Twitter API for data extraction, and we have selected some accounts for every political party, that is the official account from the party, their corresponding leaders, and additional remarkable politician, and it is daily downloaded. And then we extract the users that follow the later data extracted. All these followers are processed and are used in the graph, both with these political accounts, and moreover similar individuals are grouped and we make political profiles in order to then study these political profiles in order to analyze the tweets and the opinion and build time series and other analysis, statistical analysis that we visualize in our web platform with the graph. And focusing on the graph, this is composed with by two types of nodes. The political accounts are nodes, and the user accounts, that is individuals that follow political accounts. And the interaction between these types of nodes is represented with edges. So the relation when a user follows a political account means an edge. In order to process and build the communities from the graph, we apply two community detection algorithms, in particular the Levine method and the Leiden algorithm. And the best method is selected by using the modularity metric. And we also measure other centrality metrics in order to give insight in our graph analysis. And for the graph visualization, we establish different colors for the nodes, different sizes, and we applied two layout algorithms for a beta visualization, in particular for Atlas2 and OpenOrt. And finally, as I said, a web-based platform has been developed using the Node.js tool. This web provides some navigation options for the users, and it's also possible to visualize the statistics related to a set of nodes that the user can select. And regarding the application development, our setup, the experiments have been performed in this type of machine. All the preprocessing data are conducted with R, and data have been stored in a MongoDB. Graph analysis have been performed using Gephi, and finally all the results are stored in a JSON file in order to export it to the web application and use and visualize it. Regarding the data, 96 political accounts distributed in 10 parties have been studied. A total of almost 23 million of connections and 6 million of users nodes have been obtained. And due to the large amount of data, a simplification is designed by grouping followers in clusters regarding what politicians follow. And finally, we have to say that tweets that mention accounts of the analyzed parties and the leaders are daily downloaded, and we have 50 million of tweets in total for this project. And here we can see the technical results. 9 clusters were obtained using both algorithms, but the best algorithm here was the Louvain method regarding the modularity metric. The number of strongly connected components were also 9. And this is a screenshot of the central part of the graph in our web platform. Here we have a separate cluster, an isolated cluster, and then the most of the communities are shown in the central part of the graph. And we can highlight, looking the results, that a significant cluster that groups together the left nationalist parties from Catalonia with the followers was detected, and the algorithm identified also 2 different clusters composed by regional parties and their followers. We have to point out that the far-right party account and its followers were classified in a 4th community and appears separated from the other groups. We also obtained results, characteristics, highlighted results from the far-left parties. In another cluster, some political accounts from the 2 far-left parties from Spain leaders were classified, and however followers and other political accounts of these later parties were also identified in another community very closely to left Catalonian independence parties. And centrists and right-wing parties are classified and grouped together in another community. And the left-wing Socialist Party was also classified in the 8th cluster. And finally, the algorithm distinguishes in a separate and central community significant moderate politicians from the Socialist and the right-wing party PP in Spain. So this is the table. This is a table of the top 10 political nodes regarding centrality metrics, and we can see that the far left parties obtain the best score regarding the centrality metrics, and in our graph analysis. As conclusions, in the 2019 general election, the far right party obtained really increased the rates with 15% of the total votes in Spain, and in our graph it appears isolated from the other clusters with a lack of interaction. It could be interesting to analyze after the results of the general election in Spain. On the other hand, Republican left of Catalonia party, socialist and far left parties obtained almost the 67% of votes in Catalonia, and in our Twitter scenario we had detected a strong influence between these parties and followers of the respective accounts. We have to say that in the same general election, centrist voters tend to support right-wing parties than moderate left ones, and the latter could be explained by means of the cluster that includes the main leaders and political accounts from centrist and moderate right-wing parties. And finally, in general election of 2019, socialists obtained almost the 30% of total votes, and in our cluster the current president appears in a cluster between the far left and the centrist communities, and also sought a high centrality measure in our study. As main lesson learned, we can conclude that graph analysis and visualization are useful to give insights when dealing with a large amount of data, and after evaluating a political network we can understand which party is more valuable to reach at first and make possible allies or opposites against. It's important that the dynamic evolution of the graph should be investigated in future work in order to evaluate the changes in the political scenario. And finally, our case study on Twitter's Spanish political structure prepares the ground for analyzing influencers and lobbyism in politics after almost 30 years of two-party system. And thank you so much for your attention.